When I'm not looking for investors for my little kid hookup app, Tindergarten, I like to answer questions that I get on YouTube, so let's get to it. Sean, I have a couple of questions about how you write songs. Do you work on multiple songs simultaneously, and do you sometimes write more than one melody for a song? Personally, I'm always working on multiple songs at once. I like to have a goal of finishing one a month, and about 10% of the time, once I have finished a song that I am pleased with, I'll write a completely different melody for the song. Usually it happens because I wrote a standalone melody and later thought how much better a previously finished song would sound with the new melody. Your thoughts? So the way that I write is kind of different almost every time, but one thing that is not different is that once I start writing something that I feel is good, if I don't finish it that day, it usually doesn't get done. So generally, it's like just kind of like a ton of unfinished songs will lead to like one, what I consider good finished song. So that's why like if I'm working, if like something strikes me or whatever, however it comes up, and it's like, it's something that I feel like I'm gonna work on, I kind of need to put everything else aside and just try to concentrate on that. Otherwise, I know that the longer I get from that initial burst of inspiration, the likelihood of that song ever becoming finished diminishes exponentially. So for me, it's something that usually happens pretty quickly. Usually the music is never an issue. It's always the lyrics that can be problematic. So even if it's like something that I just need to like force something that is kind of like lame in there, almost as kind of like a placeholder that I can maybe edit later, it's just something I gotta do. Like once I start it, it's gotta happen then, or it's never gonna happen, because I've started countless songs that I've never finished, just to maybe get one or two that I have finished. Now, as far as like replacing the melody of a song once like something is come up with, that generally doesn't happen for me. Usually kind of, I think like the combination between maybe like a melody and a chord progression of the music is something that kind of sparks the initial birth of a song, so to speak. And that's usually pretty solid for that part, and I don't really go back and change a lot of stuff after the fact. But that's just my process. I know everybody's a little bit different, so you know, just whatever it takes to finish, because finishing is like the hardest thing. So just make yourself finish however you can do that, and then you'll be happy that you did. First, let's start off with the technique by which you will never facilitate learning, and that is telling somebody what not to do. True teaching requires that you tell somebody what to do, a positive versus a negative. Notice how my first sentence was completely unhelpful, and it wasn't until my second sentence that you actually had something to work off of. Leave it to friggin' Star Wars week for Salty Blues Yoda to come out of the woodwork. A positive versus a negative. Like, good thing I don't have more than one sentence to try to like get a lesson through on YouTube. But like if the very first sentence isn't like a thesis statement on what's to come, I guess he's just totally thrown off by that. I don't know. I guess I'll try to find more of my like my inner yin and yang when I'm teaching some of these things. Salty Blues comment. Speaking of Muse, what are your thoughts on the Ginger Elvis saying F Muse doing his K-Rock performance, and also him kicking the photographer's camera? I'm a big Queens of Stone Age fan, and know that Josh can be a D, but do you think that he went too far? If you watch the whole live performance of The Evil Is Landed, he does kick some other lights before kicking the camera woman, but if you watch the clip of him kicking the camera specifically, it looks purposeful. I think he was caught up in the moment of kicking things and may not have meant to intentionally hurt her, but he purposefully meant to kick the camera. And at the end of the comment, I personally like a lot of the music, but not exactly like or agree with the actions or beliefs of the band members who make it. Will his actions affect you on a music listening level? One more thing, I don't listen to Muse, but I did enjoy playing some of their songs on Rocksmith and enjoyed watching their live concerts on TV. He also has an interesting group of modified guitars. I wonder why Josh has hate for them. So such a bummer. Josh Homme, one of my like musical heroes, totally assaulted like this photographer at a concert, and I was so disappointed in this. I'm a huge Queens of Stone Age fan, huge Josh Homme fan, but you know what? F Josh Homme. The fact that he's like, I don't know, like assaulting a woman and then saying F Muse in the same time, those are like two absolute no's. So I lost a ton of respect for Josh Homme. Again, he was like in the pantheon for me. And I think if you watch the clip, it's pretty, you know, I like a lot of Queens of Stone Age fans, you kind of want to make excuses for him, like, oh, maybe he didn't know she was there, maybe it was just light or whatever. I think it's kind of like, if you watch the thing, he did it on purpose. So I don't know if it was just some kind of drug-addled thing or whatever. But definitely lost a lot of respect for Queens of Stone Age after that story came out. Such a bummer, and I think it just kind of, the bigger question is like, a lot of these like rock stars or maybe like musicians and bands that we love, when they turn out to be like not great people, how does that affect the music? Kind of like one of the reasons that like I don't like listen to Kanye West, because I think like the things he says is ridiculous, even though I know he's super talented. It would almost kind of like make me like a hypocrite to continue to listen to Queens of Stone Age. But I don't know, I feel like that music is so like ingrained in my musicianship and like what I am as a guitar player that it's kind of hard for me to predict how kind of like his behavior will lead to me listening further. But I don't know. I think it actually is easier to separate like the man from the music when it comes to like a lot of this stuff. And we can kind of just, and you can see this through all periods of art, whether it's like film, music, TV, all that stuff. But it definitely is like a disappointing thing. And especially to bring Muse into it, like my favorite band. This is so uncalled for. I don't know. I think, to me, when he's saying F Muse, I think it's probably because Muse was headlining the same act that Queens were opening for, and there's probably some kind of like jealousy going on there. That's just what I can discern from him. But again, disappointing day in the history of rock. Hey Sean, very helpful, thank you. Can I ask about the use of the iPad? I just started doing small gigs and open mics about a year ago and mostly memorized the songs because I've never done more than 3 at once. How do you use the iPad? Do you use special software or whatever? Thank you, Gary. So this is a question about the live gear rig thing that I had, and I said that I use an iPad on a music stand. And basically what I have is just a list of the songs that we have in the repertoire and maybe some notes on it if it's something that I don't totally have down 100%. Which honestly, I probably don't need a lot of the notes. I'll kind of put them up here just so you can kind of see what it looks like. Also too, if any other musician were to look at that, they would not be able to make sense of any of these notes. But it's just kind of like a cheat sheet to help me. Most notably is like if we're doing a song with a capo or something, is where to put the capo at. For some reason, that never sticks in my head. But like a super long chord progression, I have no problem. But what capo it is always baffled me for some reason. The iPad is more used, because there's no software or anything, it's really just an iPad notes thing. It's more that like if the place has Wi-Fi, you can take requests. I know like I've been performing with Allie and she uses it to look up lyrics for maybe songs that she's unfamiliar with a lot of the time. But it's just easy to go to the Ultimate Guitar app and just kind of look up like a chord chart on like a simple requested song or something like that. But really nothing fancy, nothing crazy. And like I said, eventually you will memorize all these songs, even if it is like 60 plus songs. But it's always good just to have kind of like a little thing there, just in case you're kind of playing and it's like, crap, where does this next part go? You can kind of see and be like, there it is, which happens to me absolutely all the time. Especially if I'm distracted, which is almost always the case. Like anytime a new person walks in, I'll be playing and I'll be like, oh, a new person. And I'll have no idea where I am in a song. That happens way too often, especially when I'm like sick, which was the case last time. But yeah, it's good to have an iPad around. You never know what you might need it for. So for listening homework, I'm gonna throw you to a guy who we cover a couple of his songs in the live set. Father John Misty. This is a very cool ballad of a dying man, singer-songwriter stuff. If you've never heard him, check him out. I think he's got a pretty cool voice. He's got a cool vibe kind of going on. Not an actual priest, I found out. Not that that really matters. But if you have any questions or comments, hit me up in the comment section, Instagram, Twitter, or the website. I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks a lot.